Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. I hope to keep this brief because this is just going to be a bit of a rant. I hope everyone's doing well. Um, Today and yesterday, I know for many people it's Thanksgiving. I'm not a big holiday person personally, it's just a regular day off for me. But as I've said before, I know this is a very important time for a lot of people, especially given COVID and the travel restrictions and various all different types of restrictions, and physically meeting people, right? Physically seeing people has been very difficult for a lot of people. So, for those who celebrate this holiday or it means something special to you, I hope you enjoy it, right? In times of trouble, right? In times of strife, we need hope. And, coming together often gives people that sense of hope. And it's actually part of the reason why I'm making this video, despite my personal, say, lack of connection to, or perhaps indifference toward Thanksgiving or holidays in general. I used to celebrate holidays like anyone else when I was growing up and was a kid. I have very fond memories, but I just sort of fell out of it as I hit adulthood. But here's the thing, I don't agree with shaming people for doing things that I personally do not do or have lost significance for, I guess, say, or things that no longer have personal significance in my life, right? And this message by BLM is intended to shame people, and that's what sort of gets under my skin about it. It says here, "You are on stolen land. Colonization never ended; it just became normalized. Find out which ancestral homeland you're currently occupying here." First of all, especially where it says native land, shouldn't they be changing their name at least for this statement to Indian Lives Matter or Native American Lives Matter? Because that's what they're talking about here. They're not talking about the transatlantic slave trade, which brought African slaves to the Americas, right? They're talking about Thanksgiving, and so they're talking about what happened to the Native Americans, right? And here's what pisses me off. Most of us, I should say, most of us have a general idea of what happened to the natives here in America once the white man came over, right? We're familiar with stories about the resettlements and the relocation and the government not honoring its deals and the Trail of Tears and things like the white man's burden or manifest destiny and all this other stuff, right? But we here in the modern day, white and non-white, are not responsible for those things. We don't bear any guilt for that. The America that thought that was a good idea has literally been dead for generations, for well over 100 years at this point. Every person, good or bad, every person, victimized or not, who had anything to do with that, has long been dead. That entire generation and the generations that came after them are dead. There's nothing we can do about it. We cannot undo the past as much as we may like to, which is why I don't agree with shaming people, especially in the modern day, for what their ancestors, right, whether it be literally in their family line or in a more general sense, like in a racial group, did. I'm not responsible for what natives or blacks did in the 1800s or in the 1600s. I'm responsible for what I do today. And if one wants to really, focus in on their message, guess what? Yeah, you are on stolen land. It's not that the message is necessarily untrue. But here's the thing. Every piece of earth, every part of earth itself is stolen and has been fought for and has been under the power of various human groups and kingdoms since the beginning of time. Every single part of this earth has been ruled by some group of people because humans fight and we take over and we oppress, and then it's just this cycle, right, of you take over, you colonize, you do this and you do that, and then the people fight back, and all this stuff, all this stuff, and it says you're on stolen land. But okay, let's say you could give the land back to its owners. Okay, who are the owners? Let's take a relatively small piece of land, Manhattan Island in New York City, right? The center of New York, right? The only part of New York that exists if you believe people who don't live actually in the outer boroughs in New York City, right? To keep it sort of general and simple, there are at least three potential owners, right, of Manhattan Island. If you want to go back historically, before it was officially owned, if one wants to call it that, by the United States. You have the unknown Native American tribe who originally owned it, right? Some say the tribe was the Canarsie. There have been other tribes listed. Some say the Iroquois. Some say the Algonquin. Who knows, right? So you have a Native American tribe. It was a Native American settlement. Then it becomes I think a fur outpost. It becomes a trading outpost, fur, by the Dutch, because you have that famous legend about how the Indian tribe sells Manhattan Island for like $24. Now, highly doubt in current money it would be $24, right? But the idea is that they sold this landmass for very cheap, right? So then it comes under the authority of the Dutch, and it becomes, I believe, New Amsterdam. And then eventually, a few decades later, in the 1600s, right, it ends up under the English crown, which is where the term New York comes from. It was named after the Duke of York. And then finally, in the late 1890s, interestingly enough, in the late 1890s, it would officially become part of New York City. Because actually, the boroughs were actually kind of separate entities, kind of like little city states onto themselves until the late 1800s. It's a very fascinating history there. But the question is, and this is just for Manhattan Island, right? So this isn't even for the rest of the boroughs or New York State. Just for Manhattan Island. Who owns it? If the United States of America doesn't own it anymore, who does it go to? Does it go to the Dutch? Does it go back to the English? Does it go to this Indian tribe that no one knows which one will own it? Do these particular powers even want it? And what about the people living there? Because guess what? Most of the people living on Manhattan Island have no connection to Native American culture of any type, English culture of any type, or Dutch culture of any type. So, who do you give it back to? Right? Who does it go to? Right? Which parent are you going to send this child off to? This child who has no connection to any parent. The only parent it's known for the longest is the U.S. What do you do? And this is why I can't stand messages like this, or when people talk about reparations for things like slavery, right? It does not solve or address the issue, or rather, it tries to make amends for the wrong issue. It tries to make amends for the past that we did not create, the past that we could never atone for or answer for because we didn't do it. You can't make up for things that you personally did not do, right? You can't do that. In my opinion, if they're going to post a message like this, shame people on what's supposed to be a holiday for many, which is about coming together and celebrating with family and friends and all that, if they're going to do this, then in my opinion, they need to put their money where their mouth is and actually try to do something to uplift Native Americans now. Not the dead. There's nothing we can do for the dead. They're dead. What can you do for the living? That's the question. This is why stuff like this annoys me. You want to talk so much about stolen land. How about actually trying to do something? How about Patrice Colliers, or whatever the heck her name is, take some of the millions of dollars that she spent buying 3 homes in California? Why doesn't she take some of that money and invest in some of the reservations in or around California to help with the living conditions there? for the people living and growing up in these very terrible conditions, growing up in abject poverty. Why don't you try to help uplift the living instead of banging the drum, constantly banging the drum about the atrocities committed against the dead? And that doesn't mean that we should forget what happened or act like it doesn't matter. It does, of course. But my point is that since we cannot undo these atrocities, wouldn't it be better to learn from them so that we do not repeat the same mistakes in the modern day? If I'm of the opinion that the best way to honor the dead is to help the living, protect the living. If it matters to you that much, if it matters that so much to you to make a statement like this, to shame people who are just trying to have a bit of normalcy in very uncertain times, then in my opinion, have Patrice do something to help those who are suffering, who are living in abject poverty, who don't have millions upon millions of dollars to buy one home, let alone three, and let her do something to help. Help the natives living today, right? But I doubt BLM is actually going to do that. Because, see, sadly, BLM, the organization, in my opinion, isn't actually about helping people. They're simply out to help themselves. And if they have to shame you for something you were not a part of to do it, they will. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day or night, and enjoy the weekend. Wherever you are, be safe, be happy. See you around.